spirit sex. Gotta check your energy before you get me head. If we merge and we fall, girl, the spirit sex. We can save the room, leave the crystals on your bed. Merge and we fall, girl, the spirit sex. Gotta check your energy before you.
So, where are you calling from?
Bali.
Bali. All right, Bali it is. Great.
Bali it is, 7:30 in the morning.
Okay.
Sunrise,
Well, good morning
rain
to you.
season. But maybe we start in introducing you. So thank you, John Gray. Like always, I'm so grateful to see you on our channels here. So we know you as the relationship guru of our times. You know, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus is such a wonderful book to absorb and really understand the differences between men and women on a deeper level. I personally have the privilege being part of your coaching team and bring this message to the world. And currently, I really build my main territory here in Bali and hold the company Mars Venus Coaching Bali. And hopefully we grow it beautifully over the next little while. And of course, I still coach in New Zealand and in the rest of the world. So John, there's so much to tell about you, but so many people know you. And for those who don't know you well enough, they can certainly see the introduction about you in the description below when we put it on the channel. So I have, the exploration is interview is the reflection between spiritual karmic relationship and two people meeting from a really place of physical and stronger sexual chemistry. So my first question is, what is the connection between sex and spirit in context to Mars Venus gender intelligence?
Oh, I think it's so much about sex and spirit. All right. I'm a very spiritual person. I was a monk for 9 years. After that, I was, having not had sex for 9 years, it was when I started coming back into the world, sex was very important to me to make up for lost time. And what I found is that when I had sex with a stranger, dating somebody just first night having sex, that much of my spiritual energy disappeared. There's like a sexual, spiritual potency that I had as being celibate. I could, I could meditate easily for 15 hours effortlessly. This is called spiritual potency. I felt, oh, I'm enlightened. Now I know 40 years later that there's so many levels of enlightenment. So I don't want to be bragging here. There's always more and more and more. But there was the experience of just feeling I'm one with the vast openness. The beginning experience was as a monk meditating hours and hours, I would experience the vast openness of the universe. Then I became that oneness. That was another level of enlightenment, so to speak. And then feeling a oneness with other people, so to speak. So there's a lot of different spiritual experiences. People have them. But for me, just as in answering your question, what I found is that when I would have sex with somebody who I didn't feel a loving connection with, I would feel depleted afterwards. And yet when eventually I married Bonnie, I never felt depleted because the energy, the sexual energy was coming from a place of love. And the energy would go to her, and her loving response is bringing the energy back. And with that energy, I was giving to her. So it became more of what I felt. And that was the first workshop I started teaching after being a celibate for 9 years. No masturbation, no sexual release at all. You don't have to have sexual release. If you're meditating, you're transmuting that energy. If you don't transmute the energy, then your pipes, you get problems. Okay. People lose their vitality when they're not having sex. So I think sex is really important. If you're not having sex, then you need to have some kind of practice that brings that energy throughout your body. And that was for me, meditation. So the answer to the question is the relationship of sex to spirituality is love. When you are loving your partner, and that love grows over time when you're in a committed relationship, which means that the energy gets recycled and it grows. It builds on itself, kind of like a mirror reflects it back. More light comes off of a reflection than actually goes to the mirror. So we're reflecting that love back and forth. So that became my theme, which was called Enlightened sexuality, and it was also the subheading was the purpose of sex is to make love. The purpose of making love is to share and express that love. So if you're just having sex, that's one thing. People have sex all the time throughout history, but they don't necessarily grow spiritually. But when you share your sexual energy with someone you love and they love you back, there's a container. And in order to maintain that container and grow in that, for me, sex is love with my wife, and it can be the sexual potency inside of me is huge. I mean, I can have sex for hours and hours, and she's almost always in the mood because the connection is always there. Connection when couples are not necessarily increasing love while they make love. See, making love is increasing love. How do you increase love? You share it and you express it. You have to share it and express it. The purpose why sex is so good for that, because being nice to your partner is making love, doing nice things for each other, helping each other. This is all loving behaviors, increases love. But the uniqueness of sex is that sex is so pleasurable, we have these sex centers that when aroused in the right order, the pleasure is greater. So when you feel pleasure, your ability to feel increases. That's the point of it. So you can have sex as the ability to experience greater and greater pleasure. Well, that's for teenagers, okay, just to wake up. But then when you mature, I only want to create pleasure to feel more and express more love, to feel more and express more love. And so for a lot of couples, if they're not trained in this, at a certain point, they're feeling so much pleasure, it will start to decrease. Then they'll try to intensify it. So for a lot of people in sex, it's just trying to intensify, do something new. I want to find a new way to intensify, rather than recognize whenever you're trying to intensify, actually, it's a time to relax and feel more love and express that love. And that allows more energy to exchange. And then naturally, it becomes more and more pleasure, but you're doing it only for the purpose of increasing more love.
Oh, thank you so much. Next question. Can sex replace our connection to higher spiritual realms, and or our spiritual connection to higher non-physical realms replace the need for fulfilling sex life? In a way, you have already mentioned a few things around that, but maybe you could dive deeper into it.
Yes, happy to. It's a good question. Would you say it again? It was like two questions in one.
Okay, so yeah, so can sex replace our connection to higher spiritual values and or
Let's start with that
stick
one.
with that. Okay.
Okay. Can it replace? It can express. So I'll tell you my journey, and it's not everybody's journey, but I think we can pull out of this something of value, which is for me, I did spiritual bypass. A lot of people in the spiritual movement, the New Age movement and so forth, they're doing spiritual bypass, which is ignoring all their emotional stuff and just doing meditative practices. Practically speaking, in terms of the energy centers of the body, I'm just going to focus on sending the energy up to the top. Okay. And so I got really good at that. And those are my years as a celibate monk. I mean, with the crown chakra is infinite space. Okay. You're just like wide open. And so took years and years to develop. But once I got there, and part of getting there was through a lot of discipline. Discipline is denying what I want. Well, doing what you want is, like I want to eat more. Okay, no, I'm not going to eat more. I'm going to fast. So what that does, in a sense, it squeezes the lower centers, forcing the energy to go up. Your sex center, your actual is pleasure center. The second center is just pleasure. So when you consciously deprive yourself of pleasure, it pushes the energy up. When you consciously deprive yourself of power, no competition, you're not in competition, you're not trying to control others. You're, in a sense, for me, it was surrender to a guru, a teacher. So I was never trying to be more powerful than him. I just wanted to be humble. So you're squeezing, in a sense, the power center. And then relationships, you're not having intimate relationships with somebody else. Your heart is not opening towards another person. It's opening to the God. So you're squeezing that energy comes up, and then you're doing a practice, some kind of practice as you're expressing yourself in some way. And during that stage, it was a mantra. So I had a meditative mantra, and also movements I would do, which is expression, which is a throat center. And then from there, basically not, I know Zen, you won't move at all. But for me, it was not moving around the world. It was being in a room, being silent, not speaking, and deep meditation. That's, in a sense, not speaking, is squeezing here. But it's still expressing myself in a way that would bring me to the higher frequencies. And that's here, doing it in a practical way, which is resonating with something. So that's the sound mantra, is resonating. Some people will sing, but they're singing in resonance with something divine, some positive frequency. And then the crown chakra opens. So that was a practice of, actually, this is sort of an example of the more ascetic lifestyle that you see in India, for example, sadhus, whatever. They give up all their life possessions and whatever. They're closing down all these centers so the energy goes up. Well, today people are doing that by just ignoring their emotions. Okay. If you stay out of a relationship, ignore your emotions, or that's pretty much the way people are doing it now. So they do spiritual techniques to go up, and they experience this beautiful experiences, but they haven't really cleaned out all the other energy centers, because the deep ones, down your base chakra, where all the power is your unconscious mind. That's going to be all your stored trauma. Okay, so that stored trauma has to come up. That's why people often warn people against doing Kundalini exercises, because if you do it too intensely, it will bring up your childhood trauma, because that's where it's all stored. You want it to come up. Ideally, you bypass, you go up here. So here's the place you always want to come back to, which is love, happiness, the truth. Everything's really okay. We're in the right place at the right time. So that's a positive place. Then now you can go down into the unconscious, down into the subconscious, the second center. You can go into these lower centers, have a job, make money, whatever. But you have a place when the negativity shows up, you know where to go. You can come back to yourself. So that's why often people say, oh, they're just doing spiritual bypass. I said, that's a good thing for a while, so that you know who you are. And so that now when you lose who you are, which is you're angry or upset or you're anxious or you're afraid or you're shut down, you don't feel good, you don't have joy and enthusiasm and positivity in your life, when that starts becoming toned down, it just doesn't necessarily all go away. It just gets toned down, kind of like a light bulb gets dimmer and dimmer. Put another shade around it, another shade around it, another shade around it. That's what most people, as they're getting older, you can see they just don't have the radiance that they had. Whereas you'll see some of these spiritual teachers have radiance. Okay, that means that they're able to integrate it in some way. They've been able to integrate it in. I mean, for me, I feel like a teenager when it comes to intimate relationships. I feel like a child when it comes to having fun. I feel like a baby when it comes to my relationship with God. I feel I'm always in God's hands. I ask for help. God helps me all the time. And I'm an adult at the same time. I work hard. I'm responsible. So these are all these different parts of who we are as human beings. And sex is a very, very important part of bringing that energy down to the second center, but it comes through all these other centers. And as it comes down into sex, then you use sex to come back up. Okay, so it's, I was just reading a book just for fun for the Christian. If you look at the whole death of Christ thing and the resurrection, it's a metaphor as well, which is, that you have to die first. You have to come down here and face all your demons, and then you rise above them. You can only rise above, but now you're consciously being aware that I'm not this body, but I use this body. I'm in this world to be of service to this world. So sex means you're bringing it all the way down, right next to the unconscious, second center. And so sex awakens that energy from the base, which is why when you're in an intimate relationship, which is open through love, coming down through the centers, expressing love, feeling love, sharing together in a equal, respectful way, and then you get the pleasure of and the ecstasy of physical intimacy. What then will happen is then your stuff in your subconscious mind will start coming up. That's why couples always they get triggered. There's nothing to trigger you more than opening your heart fully to somebody and bringing the divine energy down, because it's always purifying. So in our message in Mars Venus is that when you're triggered, 90% of what you're upset about is not what you think is upset about. You know, oh, my partner said this to me, I'm so upset about, oh, they gave me a disapproving look. So what? You know, are you approving of them right now? No, you're disapproving of them for their disapproving look. Well, look, you know, I mean, come on now. What I see is, you know, one of my friends wrote the book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. It's all small stuff, particularly when you're married. When you're married or you're in an intimate relationship, it brings up the depth. It pulls your divine energy down all the way to the second center, and that awakens the base center, and your unconscious feelings start coming up. And when they come up, they don't say, oh, my partner looked at me in a disapproving way, I'm so upset with them. That's how it looks. But really, it's my unresolved issues about dad disapproving of me, my school teacher disapproving of me, my mother disapproving of me, my sister disapproving of me, whatever it is. Somebody else disapproved of me at a time where I didn't have high consciousness. I was completely vulnerable to, if you disapprove of me, then I must be bad, and that doesn't feel good. And so then you shouldn't make me feel that way. A whole variety of resistance. Well, that stuff is in us. The more enlightened we become, the more the light will shine into the darkness to heal it. So sexuality is a way to ensure that you're always facing that stuff, which means you're going to be triggered. What you have to understand is whenever you're triggered, that's not the time to look to your partner for anything. That's the time to look to yourself, to your friends, to your coach, to your therapist. You know, in the Middle East, they've really figured this out, because in the Middle East, where I teach sometimes, I was in the government building and I'm talking to all the government people. They love my message so much there that they said I'm the only Westerner they've ever let into their government buildings. It was very, they just love me. But what they really like about the message is they have embraced the whole idea of women in the workplace. Okay, so the whole administration building, almost 90% of them were women. But I explained to them that women in the workplace, it's all about being of service to people that you don't know, you don't care about, or whatever. So they're all on their male side, and they burn out, and they get stressed, and they get unhappy, and they get competitive, and they're dissatisfied, and they have complaints. Why is that? Because they need to come back to their female side. And Mars Venus coaches, they love them because it's a place where women can, in a sense, share what they're feeling and learn how to share what they're feeling to feel better. And then when they feel better, then they can look at how to reinterpret the situation, that it's not all about everybody's against me, but it's about people have their problems, I have my problems, and everything's okay. And I can learn new skills. We teach skills, as you know, how to ask what you want. But most importantly, for women in the workplace, we know the stress level is twice as high for women. That's the biology of being in a job where you're nurturing others, but they're not nurturing you back. See, a mother nurtures her children, and motherhood is something that's different from fatherhood. They're very two different things. But when a mother is caring for her children give her back unconditional love. See, that's the fuel. She's getting a love that nobody can give you other than a child, okay? Or somebody who's really hungry, who you feed them, and they just all do whatever you want. So you're taking care of a child. This is unique hormones that women have, these nurturing hormones. And when they're caring for someone who needs and depends on them, and it's their child, particularly if it's their child or a very childlike person, they will respond with unconditional love. That unconditional love gives her the energy to keep giving selflessly. But now you're in the workplace, you're giving selflessly, but people aren't giving you any unconditional love. So that's what a coach does, is you're able to share what you're feeling, and you're getting an unconditional loving response. Okay, it's not like what children give you, but it's still a safety to express what you're thinking, what you're feeling, to have someone validate what you're going through, and also support you in shifting your attitude to where you're not feeling so powerless. That's another key thing. We often feel that as coaches in Mars Venus, we don't want people just to feel victimized. Certainly emotions are victimized emotions. Anger, you're being a victim. Sad, you're feeling I'm deprived. You feel afraid. I don't have support in my life. You feel guilty. You're not being nice to yourself, basically. So these are all victim states, which we have to express in order to come back to realizing that everything's not so bad. and not to sweat the small stuff, and to love ourselves, to forgive others. We're all doing the best we can. And that's a place we can come back to. Now, people who've done spiritual process, it can be a little easier for them to come back to that place, because when you're in the place of unconditional consciousness, it's love. But ironically, the people who are really good at bypass often can't go into the darkness. See, so they avoid their feelings more. And what they end up doing as a result is then projecting onto others that, if you have something coming up inside yourself, which is, I'm angry at this person for talking too much, then it's only because a part of you is not willing to look at the part of you that talks too much. Or maybe you're mad at someone for being egotistical. You're so arrogant. You get upset with someone being arrogant. Well, why does it upset you so much? Because there's a part of you that's arrogant that you don't want to look at. Okay, when women they get so upset with selfish men. They call narcissists. I'm so upset with him. Much of the time, they're just upset with him being quote, what they think is a narcissist, is they don't want to look at their own self, which is a narcissist, which is, I'm demanding more and I'm not getting it. I mean, actually, what is selfishness but to be thinking, I'm not getting this, I'm not getting this, I'm not getting this. And we create space for women to do that without feeling like they're narcissists. We all should be in touch with what it is we're wanting and wanting and wanting and not getting. But we don't want to throw that onto somebody else as complaining. We want to teach women how you can ask for what you want and get it, and use your intuition to find out what's appropriate to ask for, how much to ask for, and so forth, and have some guidelines of what's practical and what will work. You can't just feel like you're giving and giving and giving and then demand, so I deserve more. That's not going to work. So we have to help women to let go of, and men as well, to let go of the things that are bothering us inside, because anytime we're upset, typically, particularly in a marriage, but also in life, when things really upset us, they trigger us, it's because something from the unconscious mind is surfacing, but the mind doesn't go, hey, this is my unresolved feelings about X, Y, Z. We think it's all about what's going on now. And what we begin to realize on our spiritual journey is that life is no longer against us, but everything is for us. Everything is there to help us get in touch with whatever's keeping us from being the most wonderful person that we are.
I want to move us now to a different space. We are going now to the sacred sexuality part and almost the ecstasy of it. Can we find spirituality or even reach God through sex or our own sexuality?
Well, there's two ways to do it. Okay, so see, we are from one perspective, we're already there. I mean, there was one level of enlightenment. I remember I was a little crazy because I was in the ecstasy of God consciousness at that time. It's a stage along the way. And I just looked at everybody. It was like a little crazy, but it was tangible to me, which is, you're all enlightened. Don't you see that you're all God? Everything is God. And then you realize, okay, not everybody knows they're God. Okay, so life's back to normal. But this is a feeling of oneness with the divine, and people have different experiences along the way, no question about it. The ecstasy of having an orgasm is actually kind of a glimpse of divine intelligence. It's not the enlightenment, it's a glimpse of that. It's an experience of that. What is manipulated to get there. Maybe all techniques are a manipulation, but there's two types of orgasm. I'll just talk about it this way. One is called a climax, and one is an orgasm. Orgasm is a wave of peak pleasure, and it goes higher and higher and higher. And a climax is you hit a target and you're done. Okay, you kind of go down, and it's a release of tension. So what happens for a lot of people in sex is intensify. They're having pleasure, and in having pleasure, they're seeking more pleasure and more pleasure and more pleasure and more pleasure, as opposed to just enjoying what you have. And what you have is automatically increasing in pleasure. So it's when we're at a certain point, we're clinging, we're wanting to create more than what we're feeling. That's the thing people can be aware of, is you're seeking more. That's often where people want more different partners, or they want more intense types of experiences. See, we're a society where everybody's seeking intensity, and then tension in sex builds up, And then what happens is it's a point where the body is too intense and has a spasm, and that's an orgasm. It's a letting go. And so in that moment of letting go, you get to feel a freedom of no boundaries. Okay, you let go of that blocked tension. Well, there's another thing that sex can provide, which I call enlightened sexuality, is you never seek to intensify. You give up all goals. You don't seek the goal. You have one goal, which is to feel more pleasure in order to express more love. And you're feeling the pleasure. It will become more pleasurable as you express more love. So you're never really focusing on tools and techniques as much, although certainly there's body parts, there's different, what the Taoists would say is different gates that have to open. You kiss first. First you notice breathing. And it's not like you breathe together. That could be a possible technique. But what I've seen it to be is just notice that your body, as you're approaching the whole activity of sex, the arousal is happening. You're noticing your breathing is changing. So you just notice it and you join with that flow, but in your body automatically increase the flow of breathing. And you're in there kissing. And then as you're kissing, that's opening another channel of just feeling the oneness with your partner, the openness with the tongue be penetrated and so forth. And then the whole body, there's another gate of all the joints become more fluid and you want to move around. There's this natural moving around, which you just let yourself enjoy the freedom of movement with your partner. It's the third gate. And the fourth gate is the breasts, the woman touching the breast, also touching the man's breast as well, but mainly opening the gate with the woman, a variety of tools, techniques and things. These are all just natural things, but it's good to know that you don't start at the ninth gate. You start at the first gate, your second gate, third gate, fourth gate. Fifth gate is the clitoris. And we've become so intensified, high dopamine society. We want everything quick now. We get bored. You can't go slow, have to go fast. I mean, new and different, new this, intensifying. Sex, making love can be a way to reverse that tendency because your body wants it. And often the more a man wants it, the more a woman doesn't want it. Okay, she has to lead in a sense of the arousal. So you go slow as you're building arousal. Some women are slower, most are. It's not always the case, but you want to sort of be in the same level of arousal as you're going through this process of going through the woman's erogenous zones. And of course, the man has his erogenous zone. One, just hold his penis. That's always a nice place to go. But not too much up and down. Up and down will create too much tension, and in some of the ancient cultures, boys were taught how to masturbate, which is they'd have these, and certainly not before puberty, but if they were touching their penis and whatever, the father or the mother would show them not to do the up and down movement. Usually it's other boys that will teach them that will cause the urge to ejaculate, but instead just a movement on the top of the penis. There's the bottom side of the penis and the top side. The bottom up and down will cause you to ejaculate. The top will last long and it's very pleasurable until it's not. So just touch it for 5 or 10 minutes and it will become soft again. And sometimes, you just want to just give it a little attention because it's sticking up and it wants some attention. But then other boys teach you to do this and that just cause too much tension. You see, that's intensifying. And then you get the ejaculation, which is a spasm that's highly pleasurable, but it's highly dopamine stimulating. So that's why it gets addictive. It's dopamine. The same thing for the women and the clitoris. In the beginning, the clitoris touching the clitoris, it's the gate, it's the fifth gate. It's very pleasurable, enjoying it. Naturally, what happens is pleasure comes in waves. Goes up, comes a little down, comes up, goes a little down. And it's right when the wave starts to go down, it's not as intense. So that's where we try to intensify. And the whole thing is to keep avoiding intensification, allowing energy just to rise on its own, and move according to how the energy wants you to move. Spontaneous, natural, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. There's no prediction. Your body regulates all this by just not trying to intensify. Not trying to intensify is my main technique. But yes, that brings you to the experience of being multi-orgasmic. So it's not just an orgasm, it's multi-orgasmic love, multi-orgasmic love. And what happens then is all these different points open up in the vagina. That's the sixth gate is the vagina. The seventh gate is the G spot starts to come up, and that feels really good to be touched. It's more emotional. I teach at that time to talk. It's very important to talk. With the G spot is for the woman to say, "Do you love me?" The man to say, "I love you so much. How much do you love me? Love you with all my heart. Are you happy to be with me? Am I the only one for you?" All the things that women like to hear. It's because they need to hear those things. And this is the best time to have that talk. That's generally around the G spot. That's a very emotional spot. Now you're really feeling way more love than before and sharing and expressing that love. Then was at the sixth gate, seventh gate, eighth, ninth, and 10th gate tend to be the cervix will start to come down to be touched. Then to the side of the cervix is another point. Often scientists say that's the A spot, cervix is the C spot, and the other side is the B spot. But they can actually have cameras where they've seen these spots actually become showing up more. Often it just shows up as a woman goes, "Ooh, that feels really, really good. What are you doing? What are you doing?" It's because different spots will open up as her feelings of safety and love open up. And then you have this ongoing ecstatic experience of feeling a balance of your feminine energy and your masculine energy. The two become one. One of the feelings you can have is kind of a spiritual cliche. It's words until you experience it. But that one is, I am that I am, and I am that I am, which is actually, those are three distinct spiritual experiences. But you have those when you're in love with someone, and the feeling of I'm yours, I'm all yours, and you're mine, I want to take you. See, that's a woman taking you into the body. I'm yours, you're mine, we are one. And that's the spiritual oneness of ecstasy. When you brought that oneness all the way into the body, that's very profound.
Very beautiful. John, which of the two genders, looking at the Venusian and Martian energy, has greater capacity to hold this container? I have an idea, but I would love to hear you saying something about that, because it is really holding space for that, isn't it? When two people come together.
Well, what you're doing as a man is you're holding space. You're the container for a woman to open up and feel safe. Okay, it's like I'm the walls around the castle, and she's safe inside the castle, and then I come and join her in the castle. But the whole time I'm still creating the space around her. So a woman can hold space for someone, but she's on her masculine side at that time. So it's very interesting is that when he enters her, she is now holding his penis. Okay, so she's around him, but he's around her. So his space surrounds her, he enters in, and then she's now holding him as he's filling her up. So there's there's a void, there's an emptiness that's filled up through the male energy. He fills her up with his penis, basically. So there's a place of holding each other. But generally speaking, I look at the hugs. I teach people sometimes in my seminars how to hug a Mars-Venus hug, which is the man's arms wrap around the woman, and her arms come on the inside. So he's like the outer protecting her. And I noticed that myself is like when I was very more feminine, I liked when a woman put her arms around me. I kind of felt like, yes, she'll take care of me. She'll do my laundry. She'll cook for me. She's always there for me. And that's my female side. And so I realized, I want to always strengthen my male side, which is I am there for her. I'm there for do things for her. And she on the inside, just feeling me supporting her around, she's feeling, he will care for me. I don't have to do it all. And there are other movements. If a man is rather tall, sometimes they're very romantic as a woman puts her hands up over his shoulders like that. And that's very romantic as well. But then another one is his arms around her as your basic Mars-Venus hug. So the same thing in sex is he's holding her, he's around her, and at a certain point, as she's opening up, he enters up, and she's now holding him, his penis, while he's holding her. So you got her now going to her male side and her female side, him being on his male side and his female side simultaneously. That's the whole ecstasy of making love, is harmonally the experience of Love is estrogen. When your body's making more estrogen, you're capable of feeling more love. Now, women make generally, if they're happy, 10 times more estrogen than men. So women are not as horny as men, generally speaking. And with some women are addicted to sex from too much clitoral stimulation or trauma. But generally, women can feel love in so many different ways. So they're not thinking about sex all the time. I mean, this is, you can read the studies. If you're a man, you can actually take time to reflect on it. But they're studying college students, males, and they're thinking about sex several times every minute. Okay, so they have a little thing that they would clicker on it or whatever it was. But it's not like always thinking hardcore sex. They're thinking, oh, I just saw some legs over there. I'm seeing something over there. Would I want her? I wouldn't want her. Even when you're thinking I wouldn't want her, you're thinking about sex, and you go, oh, who's in the car with him? Who's that blonde I just saw? What does she look like? You know, there's always this search inside of the male for intimacy, physical intimacy. And women, of course, are much more interested in the characteristics of a man, what he can provide, his integrity, his qualities, and so forth, getting to know somebody, relationship, what we could share together. It's not all just sexual. And that's because women have higher levels of estrogen. But when men have an erection, what's happening is, most people don't know, men have to make estrogen to produce an erection. He has to have enough testosterone to hold, so that, see, they work like they balance each other like a seesaw. Okay? When you're focusing on testosterone, let's just say I'm running a race and I'm competing, I'm not feeling a lot of love for anybody right now. I want to beat you up. I mean, I want to win the process. I don't care if you lose. I want to win. Okay, that's a lot of testosterone. And then, oh, I care about you winning. That's my estrogen. Well, football players can't be worried about the other team winning, right? You've got to win. So this is part of life, is to find the balance of, I'm going to take care of me so I can take care of you. And I'll take care of you so you'll take care of me. That's nurturing. That's what you do with a child. I'll take care of you, and that child will give back unconditional love. So men, particularly because they have more testosterone, they require 10 times more testosterone, to 20 times more than a woman. And a woman makes a lot of testosterone. Okay, no question about it. Compared to her estrogen, she has a lot of testosterone. But men make 10 times more to 20 times more, and they have to. Otherwise, they're depressed and angry and irritable and passive, and they can't get it up. So men need to have that testosterone level goes up. That's starting to feel he's wanted. He feels appreciated. He feels trusted by her. You know, she's interested in him. When you're interested in a man, and then you take off your clothes, or you're willing to show a little more skin, to his subconscious mind goes, oh, she wants to have sex with me. When a woman gives the message she wants to have sex with me, even though he's not thinking any of this stuff, he's just going, oh, you know, she's wearing a short dress. Okay, simple as that. You see men just, oh, a girl wearing a short dress more than other people. Men will just look. They're going to look, because it's, first of all, it's new and different. It's out of the realm. But that's what we're designed to do, is look for the woman who wants to show up and be naked with us. Because the woman who wants to be naked with us is the woman who we can make a baby with, and that's called evolution. You know, so food and sex, this is what makes us civilization. So anyway, so that natural desire is there, whether he's aware of it or not. It's happening all the time. If somebody walks in the room naked, a woman does, you know, if a man walks in the room naked, everybody looks away. A woman walks in there just showing almost everything, everybody looks. This is just natural. This is natural stuff.
Yeah.
So, but the direction here I'm going, kind of got lost on that one. Tell me the question again. I'm answering.
Oh, we are talking about reaching God through sex. I mean, that was
Okay, I know where I'm
how
going
we
here.
started.
So it's about balancing the hormones. And I was mentioning a concept most people don't know, is that this female estrogen hormone has to go up. His testosterone has to be higher, which is, I feel wanted, I feel desired. See, when you're wanting a man, when you're open to being vulnerable with a man, which is take off your clothes, is one superficial level of vulnerability, primitive, but I'm taking off my clothes with you. You're trusting him. See, this is what builds testosterone in men. So his testosterone goes up, but he feels so confident now that his estrogen levels can go up as well. To a woman, when a woman is making a man feel trusted, now his estrogen levels go up as well. He's connecting to her. So as his estrogen goes up, he gets an erection. And as his estrogen goes higher and higher, his erection becomes stronger and stronger. And his testosterone has to keep rising as his estrogen rising. And that is the ecstatic union with God. That's what I had in meditation, but it wasn't grounded in my body, which is the balance of my masculine and feminine. So I'm able to have a thought and just not think anything else. They just, my mind can be completely blank. I can be hours. People say you can't stop your thinking. Well, I'm not stopping my thinking. I'm just thinking one thing. I can do that. And everything goes blank, which is a little challenging with memory. I can think about one thing and everything else is gone. It's got to come back from thinking one thing. So that's what meditation does. It teaches concentration. Okay. And the irony is, if you try to concentrate, then that's what most people think concentration is. You're trying to do it, but this is effortless concentration, effortless. You're just in a flow state and your mind is focused on one thing. And so well, sex, this is the great thing about sex, is it's effortless. Okay. It's easy to feel pleasure. Okay. It's effortless. So as you go with feeling the pleasure, now you basically continue to think, okay, I'm feeling my pleasure. Now I'm choosing to feel my love, to feel the love in my heart and share it and express it. And so the woman basically says at various times, she can say, do you love me? He says, yes, I love you. And there he's feeling more love to express. And then, how much do you love me? Like the stars in the universe, and more love is expressed. This is a powerful intention. Part of all of the historical yogic practices that I know, and then the practice of the cities, the powers, is you go into samadhi state, which is you're experiencing a oneness with all, and you're in a flow state. And it's an empty state too. And in that emptiness, you just set an intention, like feel happiness. And then suddenly you just start feeling all this happiness. Or you set an intention, feel compassion, and you start feeling all this compassion. Or you have a intention to feel love. And the Yoga Sutras actually, I think it's a better expression of the word love, but it's called friendliness. Think about whenever you're friendly, you're feeling love. It's such an easy one. Just be friendly, nice. That's love. So you just think friendliness and think of all the people you're friendly towards, and you'll just be filled with love. Now, you can do that right now in a non-meditative state and just think about being friendly, and you'll feel a little something. But when you're in a place of emptiness, then that's all there is when you set that intention to feel love. And now you feel a lot of love. You feel a lot of compassion. You feel a lot of happiness. You feel a lot of spaciousness. You feel lightness. You feel humbleness. You feel magnetic. That's another one, be able to feel your power to attract things to you. These are different meditative states, but the ultimate of all of them is to balance the masculine and feminine within you. And hormonally, that means for women to have very high estrogen level along with very high testosterone level. And that's a biological measurable thing, is that when women are having their ovulation, then what happens 2 days before ovulation is a hormone, a brain chemical, luteinizing hormone, activates her adrenal gland to make more testosterone, increase her desire for sex. So this is the balance. If women's estrogen goes up, then they want to have more sex. See, what is the desire for sex is your masculine side. And so that naturally happens. Now, a woman is different from an animal in that she doesn't have to wait to be in heat for her estrogen levels to go high. She doesn't have to wait to be ovulating. With romance and with intention, she can, through relationship, she can raise her estrogen to this very high level, and then her testosterone goes to a very high level, and then she experiences orgasmic ecstasy. Instead of it just be an orgasm, which is a glimpse, it's holding on to that ecstasy again and again and again. And you have this experience, kind of an out-of-body experience. One definition of ecstasy is to stand outside of, the Latin roots, is you're actually standing outside of your soul. There's a source, another self, which is outside of you. And it's like when you access that other self while you're also in this body, it's ecstasy. It's this self knowing itself as this body. There's a thing in Hinduism, which is Sat, which stands for the existence, Chit, which stands for consciousness. So when when consciousness is aware of itself as the body, but also aware of itself at the same time, then you have bliss, Satchit Ananda, self knowing itself. in this form, but it knowing itself as separate from, but also part of, and you have this spaciousness. So a lot of times when the woman is making love, she'll feel like I'm dying. That's called the petite death. The French would have an expression for that, is that whole sense of self. You're getting in touch with the bigger self. So the little self is disappearing. And that's the orgasmic ecstasy of divine union with God or the higher power.
Wow, this is so fulfilling answers. Thank you so much. And I want to paste this now a little bit more into a evolutionary question. I mean, we see on Facebook and on social media, all these spiritual thingals and twin flames, and there are all these terminologies, thrown around. And are spiritual seeking men and women better lovers, or would you say there's another dimension to it?
Well, let's see, there's a town nearby my town, and there's a woman in the town. She's the Tantra teacher. She's the expert on sex, and everybody goes to her. She teaches them everything. And I met her husband. I said, well, tell me what sex is like. We hadn't had sex in 2 years. And I say, why? Well, she's always telling me what I have to do, what I don't do, and nothing I do is right. So it's not even fun for me. So that's sometimes the case. There's a lot of people that teach things that they don't live it. And sometimes because of that, the way they teach it is not really going to work for other people. So are they better lovers? I mean, look, you don't need to know anything about spirituality. You got Joe Sixpack and his wife, and their children have grown up. And so they now have time together, and they're having a good time. They're loving each other. They're taking care of each other. They're making love. They could have the most amazing experience without any of these techniques, whatever. It's the love. And so if you have a life where you're successful in loving each other, and, a lot of, I'll just speak for a lot of, quote, spiritual people, they think they're being spiritual when they're in a community where they're all having sex with each other. Okay. So all I can say is you're just a bunch of animals having sex. Okay. And it feels really good. And you can feel your union with God there for a brief moment because you're feeling more, so I can eat ice cream and I feel more, but it's not an established spiritual integration of bringing the divine through me into the world to create a successful, meaningful life. So there's so many ways to have sex and, a new partner every time. This is what the emperors of China did. They had concubines. And so every night it would be a different woman. And the wife would pick the different woman, because if you have a new and different partner, you get what I'll call fake sex, but still you'll have an ecstatic experience. Experiences are cheap, at a certain point. I've had every spiritual experience you can describe. Experience is just something and it goes away. What you want is the state, the state of being where you are that all the time. And then that changes. There's all these different levels of enlightenment, but just to experience things, that's fun. You can take drugs for that. People ask me why I don't take drugs. I've tested them all just to see what the experience was, but why do I even care about something that is over afterwards? Unless you're doing it for some form of therapy or some kind of awakening, and then you did it. Now you're awake. Now you have to put it into practice. I've seen a lot of people who did some various mushrooms or ayahuasca or something, and they have the experience that there's so much more to life than just my mundane life. But then you've got to put that into practice, and that takes spiritual discipline. And the same thing with, let's say, when I was younger, I had sex with lots of women to understand that men and women were different. That helped me. And to have a lot of, beautiful orgasmic experiences, but then they were over. When you have someone in my spiritual energy would deplete quite a bit also. But when I was with somebody, when I finally married Bonnie and she knew I was dedicated to her, I'm committed to her, the energy circulates. So it never drained me at all. That's my own experience. And so you can have all kinds of spirituality. Here's one description of spirituality, which is there's different stages, but the fourth stage of spirituality, one is you're seeking, you're suffering. And so you realize I'm suffering. I need more. I'm on the path. Okay. I'm looking. Okay. I got to find something else. And then the second stage is you found your path. You found whatever practice works for you. You see that you're very open-minded about other things, but you found the thing that works for you. You're on your path, you're doing your practice, and then your practice works and you get an experience. So you experience something, you know, so you can go have sex with stranger, whatever you experience an orgasm, you kind of go, oh, I want more of that. But you don't get more of that. That doesn't sustain it. What sustains it, fourth level of enlightenment, is where it was no longer that I experienced my infinite consciousness, expanded awareness, which is wonderful to experience, but it goes away. But to become that, it only stays when you become that. So I am that. And that's never gone. You know, that was, I don't know, back in my 20s when that happened. And oh, I thought I was hot stuff, I'll tell you. Because it's quite an ego trip when you are one with the universe. You know, people say self-realization, know yourself. Well, I learned myself, but then you move into many other stages where then you realize that there is no self. So that's the higher level of self-realization, is that I have no self. When you feel the self you have is, this is the path of relationship. The path of relationship is you find you're one with you can relate to your partner. You relate to how they're feeling. We have communication skills so that people can first understand what they're feeling and then be able to understand what other people are feeling and be able to relate to that in a positive way. So that's the growth of unity consciousness. You know, I achieved unity consciousness as a meditator, but then coming into the world, you're feeling that oneness, but then, well, I don't want to be one with that person, and I'm not going to be one with that. It was rather challenging. You know, if I saw somebody who was homeless, I would freak out, you know, because I'm feeling like I'm homeless, you know, and oh, I don't want to be homeless, you know. So you have to have your own boundaries of who I am and then know who others are. And that's the relationship. Relationship is a path of learning to connect with somebody and not let them have power over you to the extent that you lose yourself. And that's an important concept. I'll briefly cover that one, which is when you have sex with somebody, you're giving them the power to make you feel really good. That's what it is. I'm not giving anybody else that power. I'm giving my wife the power to take me to higher levels that nobody else can take me to. So if I give her that power, that means I let down all my defenses. Somebody else can say, oh, you're John Gray, I don't like your work. So, okay, no big deal. Not everybody likes my work. You can't please everybody. No problem. Even sometimes it does affect me, though, if somebody's really says something bad to me or whatever. I'll just go to my TED Talk. Have you seen my TED Talk with the red shirt? If you go to my TED Talk, I don't listen to me. I look at all the reviews. This guy's amazing. He's wonderful. He helped my marriage. He saved it. Why are there more people watching this? I was shadow banned a long time ago. In the year 2001, I was the biggest selling author in America and the world. And then in one day, they took me off of TV. They would never let me be on TV again. And the YouTube, the numbers went down.
So may I ask why that happened? What was the cause for that?
There's a narrative in the world. The narrative is that men and women are the same. When men and women are the same, what that does is that ends marriage. When people are not having marriage, you bring the population down. You can hear all the globalists are talking all the time about we need to reduce population. You know, Bill Gates stands up there and says we need to get rid of 80% of the population. I said, what did you just say? How are you going to get rid of 80% of the population? And then he said, with education and with birth control and with vaccinations. That's what he said. How's that going to get rid of the population? You got to go, what is going on in this world? But there's a huge, huge narrative. It started a long time ago. We want to basically have women and men. We want children raised according to the government. The government should be their teachers, not their parents. And so they do everything they can to get the children away from the parents so they can re-educate the children to think the way they want. And they think what the way they think is a good thing. This is every communist country has always, Stalin said, Mao said, you know, give me the children in one generation, I'll have the country. You indoctrinate the children. And right now, children are all being indoctrinated. They started in the universities. That's why Men Are From Mars became so popular. I was countercurrent. They're constantly telling people we're all the same. There's no difference between men and women. And I'm over here saying, wait a second, let's look at the obvious here. And it took it to another level because there was so much resistance to men and women to acknowledging that we are different. What I did was able to give more examples of how we're different. And with that greater awareness, we now have a greater awareness of how we can nurture those differences in each other. Because that's the most important factor when it comes to sexual attraction for a lifetime. Sexual attraction to your partner from a lifetime. can only be achieved if there's polarity. Polarity means I'm more masculine and she's more feminine. That's it. Okay, I have a feminine side. If I suddenly go to my female side, the female side of a woman or a man is the same. It's the part of us that says, I need help, and will you do that for me? I don't have to do it all myself. If you look at any woman who's stressed, she says, I have so much to do. I have no time for me. I have no time for me. The man who is weak is like, I only want to do what I want to do. I don't want to do what anybody tells me to do. I'm going to just do what I like to do. And I'm going to take this drug and it makes me feel really good. And I'm going to sit and play my video games and it makes me feel really good. The part of us that says, I'm dependent on something outside of me to make me happy, that's my female side. The part of me that says I'm dependent on someone else to do something for me, that's my female side. My male side is, I'll do that for you. I do have dependent. My male side needs a job. My male side needs a job and needs to be paid by the job. I need to take a talent that I have, energy, effectiveness, and this is a woman as well. She has a male side. So whenever you're helping others, you're trying to serve others, you're on your male side. And when somebody's helping you, you're on your female side. And so we want is a balance of both those things. So what happened historically is there's a narrative, which is what Mao did. Mao had all the women cut off their hair and they made everybody just the same. When you have when you're just the same, you have no sexual attraction. And this is true in gay relationships as well, is that very quickly the sexual attraction goes away, but it's also true to their partner. Not, for men, they can have more sexual attraction for others, but that sexual attraction goes down. It also goes down in heterosexual relationships. Why? Because the polarity goes away. All it takes is for me to be on my male side, and I get dressed. I dress up tonight. I'm taking my wife on a date, and she says, don't wear that tie. It doesn't match your suit. And then I said, okay. And then she says, let me show you a tie to take. I said, okay, I'm cool. I'm a loving guy. See, go with the flow. That's men going to their female side. If you want to decide what I wear, fine. And then the next time I do the same thing, and it happens again 3 times. On the 4th time, I don't even put on my tie. I say, hey, honey, help me put on the right tie. Pick the tie for me. I just gave up my own ability to decide how to dress. So what happens is rather than argue with their wives, rather than get upset with them, we'll just go with the flow. And so we become passive. He doesn't have that startup energy. That's the male energy, initiative, decisiveness, planning, following through. That's our male side. Women end up having that, okay? They take charge of everything, and that's their nature because they do have a male side to take care of children. They have a lot of testosterone, but to fuel that without them burning out, they need a child giving them unconditional love, not a husband. Husband cannot handle that part. But he has to understand adult relationship, making love to her, treating her with respect. She needs to communicate. She needs to feel understood. He needs to do things that prioritize her. As coaches, we train men how to do this. Love can be learned. And we all have to learn a new way of loving because women, their need today, they're so on their male side, they need to come back to their female side before they can even get close to having an orgasm. And that's biological. We know that for women, in order to have an orgasm, they need to make a lot of estrogen. And estrogen is produced when you can depend on someone to do things for you. And so if you don't have that, you start with having a coach. You go to a coach who actually has a knowledge of how to provide you with, if you're a woman, how to process your feelings. If you're a man, he'll teach you coach will teach you the strategies so that you can provide for a woman and achieve your goals more effectively. And this is all, this is not just me talking. This is biology. And I had to go to biology since the Supreme Court couldn't even acknowledge that men and women are different. Okay. It's like I have to have a biologist explain. So I had to become a biologist to explain how men and women are different. Because people are so indoctrinated now that you can't even, it's offensive to even say that men and women are different. And that started for me in the beginning. That's why I created Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, an answer to my prayer, to make a playful way of expressing our differences so people didn't get so triggered by it. They get so triggered. And then, it became so big and everything just got too big for the establishment, not in other countries, but particularly in America. That's where they canceled me right from everywhere. Okay. It was just like, I I used to be on every TV show on a regular basis as a visiting expert, coming in to 18 shows with Oprah. One day, everything stopped. And that was at the end of the decade when I was announced to be the biggest selling author in the world of that decade. So we could not have this guy. And I was teaching at Stanford University, and the students rioted against me. They didn't have me come back. This was a whole education thing that men and women are the same. And we can be equal. See, I'm all for equal, but you don't have to be the same. Equal, but not the same. Equal, but different. See, everyone is different. And then when it comes to female hormones and male hormones, there's big categories, like a Grand Canyon between the men and women, which, many women, I understand. They go, well, that's just wrong because she's over on this side of the Grand Canyon. She's on her male side. She says, my husband sounds like he's from Venus. I'm from Mars. Are you telling me something's wrong with me? Well, kind of. I'm saying that, you're missing out, and she said, I'm only missing out because my husband. I said, no, you're missing out because of you. And women told me all the time, the ones who didn't like my ideas were saying, basically, they weren't in relationships, generally speaking. It's single women, particularly, who, not all, of course, but the ones who would resist it, is that they're way on their male side, and they're on their male side because they're not comfortable with their female side. They either had an absent father, a traumatic father, she don't feel safe with a man. How can a woman accept and trust a man's differences if she didn't have a father who was different from mom, who was also very loving and supportive? So, all you have to do is grow up in a divorced family. How can a woman trust that man? How can a boy trust himself if he's more bonded with his mother? And usually they are. So this is a big challenge. Divorce has wiped everything out, one thing. The universities have wiped it out, trying to neutralize the idea of that gender and sex are different. When they say, well, gender and sex are different, I say, who says? You just made that up. You just made that up. If you're a man, you're a man. We know biologically what a man is. We know what a woman is. You can't just say you're a man if you're a woman. Not possible. You can make that up, but it's not true. You're a horse, you're a spaceman, whatever. You can make up anything. But the universities are teaching these kids, repeating it over and over, that no, you just choose your gender. No, you don't choose your gender. I even had a debate with a university professor who was one of the speakers at one of my events. I was speaking at somebody else's event, and he couldn't sit in his chair. He was just so upset. And I get it. When somebody disagrees, when you disagree with somebody so much, it's like sandpaper against your heart. It's tough. He could not sit still. Finally, they asked me to do question and answer. So he immediately jumps up and he says, oh, but everything you're saying is wrong. There's new research. What was the new research? The new research is showing that your hormones do not affect your mood at all. I just want to say, have you ever had a woman have her period? I mean, and what about all the drugs? He said, oh, if you could adjust hormones, could change somebody's mood, that you think the pharmaceutical industry would have done this? Of course, that's what they've done with all of their drugs, is their drugs affect brain chemicals. They affect hormones more than anything. Hormones regulate our mood, our motivations, our desire for sex, our feel good, what makes me feel bad. Anytime you're having any negative feeling, your hormones are out of balance from what a normal, healthy hormonal level would be for a man, which is different than what it would be for a woman. And different things will stimulate those hormones. I mean, gosh, a man is respectful, a woman helps her in some meaningful way, her estrogen is going to go up. She's going to feel all this love. So what did I do? I did something that affected your hormones. Your hormones affected your mind. And certainly your mind affects your hormones. But he was denying that it's a two-way street. He said, no, just your mind affects your hormones. Your hormones do not affect your mind. Nonsense. But where he's coming from is that in his world, there's no studies, except for my books and my logic that I put forth. There's no studies that actually directly describe that the way people treat you dramatically affects your hormones. The way you treat other people directly affects your hormones. Because if you just take hormones, it doesn't necessarily make your mind work better. Okay, just taking them. It's like a man with testosterone. If you take hormones, it doesn't necessarily get all the benefits of testosterone. It's a man making testosterone. The most important thing for a man's heart health is that he's making testosterone. Men only have heart attacks when their testosterone goes down. This is, most people don't realize this. When a man retires, his testosterone levels significantly drop. And the insurance company says when a man retires, means he's not going to work anymore, he has 3 years to live before his heart attack and dies. That's their insurance. These are like actuaries. They understand this. That is tied to men retiring. Well, what biologically happens when you retire? It's that you can't make testosterone anymore. So giving that man testosterone isn't going to keep him from heart disease. It's going to be doing the things that raise testosterone, lower your stress level, and your heart is healthy. It's not even cholesterol. It's oxidized cholesterol that is somehow equated somewhat to heart health. Somewhat, not really that much, but it is. But it's not the high cholesterol. It's the high oxidized cholesterol. Oxidized cholesterol is only produced when you're in a state of chronic stress. Any man who's in a state of chronic stress, even if he's sitting there watching a video game, he's still, or watching TV, he's in a state of chronic stress because he's not making enough testosterone. Testosterone, when it's being made, lowers your stress. When testosterone goes down, your stress levels go up. This is real simple biology. And yet they don't have any knowledge of this. They're just thinking, when I say, hormones affect your mood, they're thinking, well, you mean taking the hormones? No, don't take the hormones, make the hormones. So when a woman comes to a coach and has somebody she feels unconditional support from, meaning you're not going to be judged or criticized, but you're going to have empathy, and you share your feelings and your thoughts, and someone helps you become more aware of what your feelings or thoughts are because they ask you questions, that raises your estrogen. If you're a woman, that will lower your stress level and train you how to express feelings without trying to change somebody. You see, complaining is always trying to change somebody. If you express negative emotion to complain, you're only going to reinforce more negative emotions. Your brain just will have more and more negative emotions, and your brain will loop again and again. However, when you talk to a coach, you're actually training your brain to talk without trying to talk about things that are bothering you, without trying to use that to get love and support. You're actually paying someone to get the love and support. You don't have to convince them. They're happy to do it. You pay them. Good job. I'll do my job. I'm right here for you. So this is like retraining the brain not to use negativity to get what I want. So many people are out there victims all the time trying to think, I'm such a victim, you should change for me. That only makes them more negative. That's what we've turned into with all this identity politics, where everybody's like, I'm this group and I'm this group and I'm mistreated this way and I'm mistreated this way. This just reinforces negativity. This is the opposite of where we need to be going, which is get out of the whole idea of we're all so different. Yes. What we do is we get into we're pure human beings, but in that realm of human beings, the real differences between men and women, besides personality differences, is gender. It's the most basic difference there is. And we know that right with our biology. The Y chromosome that women do not have, the Y chromosome is in male, and people don't realize it. What does that Y chromosome do? It creates, we have thousands and thousands of genes. I have every gene that you have. All males start out for the first 3 weeks female. And then the Y chromosome at 3 weeks releases 23 genes. Okay, turns on 23 genes that women do not have, and men have that. It releases these genes. And these genes, these 23 genes, they override many of the female genes inside of me. They override it. But that has to be triggered. So a lot of males today don't have their masculinity because they don't have a male around them to trigger those genes that override their female side. So they think they're female, or they have too many female characteristics. They have no confidence, they have no motivation, they're irritable, they're angry, they're violent. A lot of this, what people don't know is that we're seeing all this stuff about people having gender dysphoria. 80% of gender dysphoria is autistic children.
Yes.
Most people don't realize that. This is not just, this is autism. Okay, so just as with any dysphoria, any anxiety, you work on helping them, not affirming the dysphoria. That's not the answer. I'm a rabbit. Just tell me I'm a rabbit and I'll be happy. No, you're a human being and you have certain needs. And, while I'm just talking, if you're thinking you want to be in the world of, giving hormones is not my expertise. I teach people how to make hormones. I'm not against taking them. If you have a really good doctor and have some medical condition, you take some hormones, can help. There's so many other things you can do to try before taking hormones, like what I talk about in my books and whatever. However, if you're going to give hormones, you got a boy who thinks he's a girl, don't give him girl hormones, give him boy hormones. So that's what I would, nobody's done this yet. They do it in China when a boy has effeminate characteristics, when his balls don't drop, they'll give him testosterone so he can find his masculinity. You know, what happens at puberty, and they're trying to block puberty, which causes the gender dysphoria to not go away. If there is some confusion, what happens at puberty, just as a natural surge that occurs in a male, his testosterone goes up 10 times. But if he's being coddled, that's not going to help his testosterone go up 10 times. In every tradition, there's always been initiations where they take the boy away from the mother at puberty, and he has to hang out with the guys and do guy stuff. And guy stuff is what stimulates the genes to override the female genes. So the potential is there, but he needs to have it triggered and stimulated. Just like my wife's potential to be orgasmic is there, but I have to take her on dates. I have to listen to her feelings. I have to do romantic gestures. I hold her hand sometimes. I give her hugs. I give her compliments. I give her reassuring gestures. I make her important. That raises her estrogen. So now she really wants to have sex with me all the time. So I can generate that by my behavior can affect her hormones. Her behavior affects my hormones dramatically. So that's what we have to recognize. This huge hormonal imbalance, this whole gender dysphoria is just hormonal disbalance inside of us. We have to work in harmony with our biology. If we work against our biology, we only have more suffering.
John, the subtitle of this interview is Sacred Seduction Secrets for Spirituality Seeking Men and Women. You talked so much about the emotions, the body. What are you doing, or what would you recommend to men and women to do every day to actually enhance a lifestyle that embraces all of that you have, taught us today?
Okay, so this is a great question. This is where I get to the nuts and bolts. We talk around it, philosophies, ideas. Some are good. Some people relate, some may not. But this is the nuts and bolts. If you want to have a great love, making love, sacred sexuality is making love. Okay, to feel and express love. It's not a bunch of tricks and performances and postures and weird tools that you're using. You get rid of all the machinery. You're not using vibrators. You're not using any of that stuff. You're not using porn. You're not depending on fancy outfits, but dignified grace. There's a value to slowly taking off clothes. There's a value to having candles in the room rather than light. There's a value to soft music. There is setting the tone of relaxation and safety, not the tone of intensity. We're looking at relaxation. We're looking at vulnerability for women to feel safe. Now, next thing. What you do outside the bedroom is more important than what you do inside the bedroom. Inside is very important, but outside is more important. So what happens outside is you learn this technique. You're in a this is just for couples who love each other. Sacred sexuality is you're having sex with someone you love and you're committed to. That's what makes it sacred. If it's just having sex with somebody, you're just an animal. Yeah, okay, I was a teenager, okay? I'm not judging it. I was just saying, if you want to mature and grow into sacred sexuality, it's in a monogamous relationship where you love and adore your partner. And you do things outside the bedroom that will stimulate estrogen for her, because she's always fighting against the river. Our culture is telling women to be like men. Everything and circumstances are telling women they have to be like men. It used to be that a man could have a job and own a house without the woman having to work. Therefore, when the children started growing up and now they're in school, she could choose to do something part-time so she could spend time when the children come home from school. Okay, there used to be a choice for women. Women are all saying, I want choice. You lost your choice. The economy now cannot support one person. You need two people. Why do we need two people? Because women made a choice a long time ago saying, we want to be making money too. So now when you have a woman making money and a man making money, you have twice as much money. So what do you do with twice as much money? You get a mortgage, which is twice as big as what you could do before. And now when you can get a mortgage, which is twice as big, now the value of houses just doubled. So now real estate is more expensive. Houses are more expensive. So it takes two people to now pay for that house. Unfortunately, that's the situation. It's a very tough place. Maybe we'll wander back to that. There's a thing, redemption is always possible. But you start with, if you're on your woman's on a male side, what a man can do to bring her back to her female side. And when you're good at this, men, your wife will be multi-orgasmic and want to have sex more than you. Okay, so that's the dance. And when she wants sex more than you, it's because you have an erection that works every time. What happens is often when men's erection stops working, then women start going, I want more sex. It's just another complaint that they have, which will just knock it down as well. So a little subtlety there I just mentioned. Because women often say, I'm the one who wants sex. She's in her 40s and he doesn't. Well, when he was in his 30s, he wanted it and you weren't in the mood. Now you want it. But really what you're wanting is to feel his desire for you. He's desiring you, wanting to make love to you. And he just doesn't anymore because it's been knocked down too many times. It can come back when you find your vulnerability, and he helps you find your vulnerability. So keep in mind that sex in the beginning is automatic because you're producing a lot of testosterone and a lot of estrogen in the woman just because it's a new relationship. New relationships produce dopamine. Once relationships are no longer new, familiarity sets in. You don't get free testosterone as a man. You don't get free estrogen as a woman. You have to create these hormones. I mentioned before, I didn't finish it. When you look at the Emperor of China, every day he has to have sex. If he doesn't have sex, if he doesn't get an erection every day, his son now gets to be king. So the wife wants to make sure he gets an erection every day because she wants to be queen, not his son's wife, right? So she's got invested interests here too. She wants the power. He wants the power. So she brings a new wife. That's the concubines, thousands of women. So every time she have women massage the woman, play music, put oils on her body, stimulate her to where she's fully aroused, then bring an aroused woman into the room with this old guy. He never saw her before, and he'll get an erection. Why? Because the newness is there and she's putting out female hormones. Okay. She's got female hormones up to kazoo. It's putting out pheromones that wakes up his desire and he can get an erection. He can stay emperor. Okay. That's a very primitive way to do it. What you want is to be able to know that the reason that worked is because new and different will raise his testosterone. Okay. So that's that. We want, if you want sacred love, it's going to be the same person, and you're going to be able to find higher and higher levels of love with the same person. That's the magic. That's when life doesn't have to be a drug trip in order to feel great. That's when the mundane is divine. It's sacred. Everything becomes sacred, worship or worthy of worship. I mean, it's this beautiful state you can get to. Sex is grounding your spirituality into that state by being in a committed relationship, working through any of the issues that keep you from feeling love towards your partner, and then affirming that love every day with a little process. And this is what I was getting to, where I call it the reassurance exercise. Every day, at some time, she says to her partner, do you love me? He says, yes, I love you. She says, how much do you love me? With all my heart. Do you think I'm beautiful? I think you're so beautiful. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Are you happy that you met me? I'm so happy. Are you happy you married me? I'm so happy I married you. Will you always love me? I will always love you. Do you feel lucky to have me? Yes. All those are insecurities that every woman has. She may not know it. If a woman says, I don't have those, then you just don't know what your female side is. That's the female side. It's looking to feel love, just like a man's male side is looking for success. I want to feel successful. I want to feel I make a difference. If I don't get reassurance, that's why we like to get paid, is if I don't get paid, then I feel like I didn't make a difference. So this is very, very important for our male side. Important for the female side is that I am loved. I am loved. And he could be saying, oh, I love you, I love you, I love you. Well, her reaction often then is, yeah, but why did you forget to empty the trash? Or yeah, why didn't you tell me the other day? Or why did you get mad at me 3 years ago? You know, so women have all this insecurity about love, which makes them go to their male side. If I can't love is I can depend on you. I can trust you. You're there for me. Well, when I can't trust you, I have to do it myself. Now you're on your male side. So bring it back to the female, she has to ask for the reassurance. That's the most vulnerable thing. Do you love me? Yes. How much do you love me? With all my heart. Now you practice this every day. Once a day, you practice it. And then often it's the women who won't do it. So then, you know, basically he has to now ask her, say, honey, let's do the process. And then she goes, okay. Because women have more resistance most of the time than men do. All you have to do is set it up with a man. Honey, I just feel like you're so amazing and I feel less than you. And this will give me a feeling of security that you still love me. I know you love me, but this feels good to hear. So he'll do it. If you just say, oh, I'm going to take 3 minutes. Won't you do this? Of course, any man will do anything for 3 minutes. So that's one thing. Second thing, in a relationship, you're living together, you're sharing responsibilities and whatever. Once a day, a woman needs to ask a man to do something for her that will take less than 5 minutes. And she signals it by putting her hand up like this. Hand in the air, it says it's less than 5 minutes. And she asks him to do something for her that she could easily do for herself. But she's asking him to do it, and she doesn't have to do it. And she gets to enjoy not having to do something for a few minutes. And then she can't go off and be overwhelmed with something else. It's something where she can relax. I would like to do this for myself. Like, I'll make a cup of tea. Honey, would you make me a cup of tea? And he knows this is just this once a day. It's the request that's going to be in less than 5 minutes. Another thing is a man pursuing a woman. Women love to be pursued. So 4 times a day, he pursues her to give her a hug. He sees her in the morning, looks for her in the morning, gives her a hug, goes away. Honey, I'm leaving. Let me give you a hug before I go. Or she's leaving to work. Oh, honey, before you go, let me run and give you a hug. See, this little extra effort to seek out her, not her seeking him seeking her receiving the hug, enjoying it, occasionally saying, as during the hug, right after that, one of those hugs, she could do you love me? I love you so much. How much do you love me? And sometimes it will seem not as fantastic as in the beginning. You create a flow, and it comes back. It becomes a little less dramatic. It becomes more, it becomes less, it becomes more. You just create that effortlessness where she feels I can ask for what I want. He's still interested in me. He pursues me. And you plan your dates. You do something special occasionally. There has to be something extra special occasionally. But this is something you can do every day. That's called creating. That's called creating polarity. That generates those hormones. See, I got this idea right from the whole thing about romance. When you're taught how to treat a woman on a romantic date, you open the car door for her, right? You open the door for her, something she can do for herself. And I remember the first time I did it, Bonnie said to me, I can do that. I said, oh, honey, I know you can do that, but you do so much for so many people tonight. Let me do this for you. That's romantic. That's romantic. Now, that's one side of romance. That's him doing things for her that she could easily do for herself. But the flip side of this, the more enlightened part of this, is she also can ask him to do it, and he'll immediately respond. And that's what the agreement has to be. He can't say no. He can't go, I'll do that later. This is less than 5 minutes. It's a less than 5 minute request. He has to jump to it, just like he's the maitre d' at the fanciest restaurant in town. Oh, Dr. Gray, come right in. We've got your table for you right away. Bring you hors d'oeuvre. Or in first class, you fly in a plane. They'll, oh, well, let me do whatever you want. Just push this button, be right here. You can have your meal whenever you want. That's what you want to be for 5 minutes for your partner. And you were that way in the beginning, but you stop being that way. Practicality sets in. All the familiarity, those hormones that just say yes, they go away. But this brings back the hormones. These are behaviors that will stimulate more estrogen in a woman, more testosterone in a man. And that polarity on a regular basis allows you to miss your partner and want to connect with your partner.
Beautiful. And if you don't feel it, can we make it up for a little while and then?
Absolutely. No, fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah,
you do.
Because often I'm asked, but if I don't feel it,
Yeah, of
So
course.
really telling
follow your
clients
feelings. Following your feelings is one of the worst things you can do. Everybody says, follow your feelings. Well, if I follow my feelings, I'd eat ice cream all day long and then I feel sick. Okay. So this is not just follow your feelings.
being intentional, being really intentional.
Very intentional. Feelings should follow intention. If you're here's a point. When you're on your male side, it doesn't feel natural even to go to your female side. And you have resistance to it. It can feel like a struggle to do. It can feel like a battle to do. Just like if you're too passive and you need to use your body more, your body says, oh, I don't want to get up and exercise. I'll just sit here. No, you have resistance often to doing the things that are good for you. And then when you do those things, it starts to feel better again. It starts to feel natural. And it works like this. Everything in coaching always is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's how life moves. Nothing is just go forward all the time. I always tell
Can I bring one last little element in? Is the element of spirituality? If people don't feel they're spiritual, but still it could be really helpful to expand into a more greater awareness. Yeah. Are there exercises, would you say couples should sit in front of each other and eye gaze? Or is there something simple, really simple couples can do, even if they don't feel they're going into the space of complete, now we are becoming something else, because often it's
I just gave you the eye gaze. If you're feeling really loving, you can do eye gaze. I'm not a big eye gaze person. My thing is express, but the eyes are the window. Oh, but if you're upset with your partner, don't look in their eyes. Okay, it's the worst thing you can do. I heard some experts saying, the secret to resolving an argument is when you're mad at your partner, just look into their eyes. No, that's the worst thing to do. If you're having a little conversation, it's a little tense, sit together side by side or do it while you're walking. Okay, so you're not looking at each other. Because eye contact, if you have resistance to your partner about something, or you anticipate resistance, basically your partner will resist back with eye contact. So yeah, there are processes you can do. Actually, I do them in my workshop. I tend to be with my partner. My recommendation is you feel your love. Just give reassuring love. And at that time, you're looking them right in the eyes. But you're bringing it not just eye contact. It's looking them in the eyes while you're doing, do you love me? How much do you love me? Do you like me? Do you forgive me from yesterday? Have you let it? Are you still mad at me about that thing I said? No, honey, I'm not mad at you. Do you promise to forgive me? Will you always love me? See, everything you want to hear from your partner, you have to ask for. That's called being a grown-up. Okay. In the Bible, it says, ask and you shall get. It doesn't just come to you. Take one step forward, God comes 9 steps towards you. You have to ask. You have to open up. That is the secret to all this. And if you look at everything that ruins relationships, is this idea where women are constantly, it's not wrong. Women are always testing. Does he love me? Does he not love me? Does he love me? Does he not love me? I'm giving a talk. I'm looking at my audience. Am I getting to everybody here? Am I not getting to everybody? I'm constantly looking for reassurance. Am I going the right direction? How do I want to do this? Well, same thing for women. Am I being loved? Am I not being loved? So they're constantly looking, whether consciously or not. Am I loved? Am I not? Am I loved as much as before? Has he changed? Have I done something? Did he do something? This is all going on inside of women. They overthink everything compared to what's really going on when it comes to a man. So that tendency of insecurity is to ask for the reassurance you need. Often 90% of the time when a woman wants to, he's not talking. I want him to talk. Why do you want him to talk? What you want really is reassurance that he's not mad at you, that he's interested, that you're important to him. You do want connection, but you can have connection by going into him, or you can have connection by him going into you. You don't have to go into a man at all. One of my favorite jokes is, women have a place you can connect through. Men have another place you can connect through. If you want that, that's what you're going to get. That's not fine. It's just, we're designed to go into you. That's polarity. Yeah, certainly you want to have conversation with a man, but asking what he feels and what's going on inside, not the right direction. But women will do that when they don't feel safe to open up to him. And they don't feel safe because he's not interested. But he's not interested because nobody asked him. If you just ask a man to do something, he'll be interested in doing it. If he says, honey, I'm in a bad mood today. I just want to talk about what happened. You don't have to say anything. Just listen. He'll do it 100%. We're the best listeners ever if you're not complaining about us. Just don't complain about us. Complain about all these other things. And after you complain for a while, make sure you also come back to, I'm grateful. I realize it's not such a big deal. I'm happy. I'm lucky I have this. I'm lucky I have that. And I'm happy I have this. Come back to being positive again. Don't just throw negativity out there. Come back to sharing. And it's easy. It's a little discipline. Is if you focus on a little negativity, that will raise your estrogen too. All negative emotions or positive emotions raise estrogen. But it doesn't last. If you're doing negative emotions, it goes up and it goes right back down. If you share positive emotions, it stays up. So sometimes to feel positive, you have to share, this happened, this happened, this happened. That's our feeling letter exercise. We help people process their emotions. Then you come back to the positive emotions. It's a discipline. It could look as much as saying to your husband, oh, honey, I just want to talk for a few minutes. Today, there was so much traffic. I had to talk to so-and-so. He did the same thing. He didn't pay. I keep calling these people and they didn't do that. And so she complains a little bit, shares her frustration, disappointments, her worries, her concerns. And then she says, but actually, I'm really grateful I have this. I'm lucky we did this. And I realized it wasn't a big deal. And I'm so happy to have you listening to me. I feel so much better. I feel connected. Thanks so much for listening. Boom. That's like a few minutes. and he listened to you, and you got your need to connect. She needs to connect. One quick little thing, a little technique, my daughter has that class, Understanding Women, at marsvenus.com. And one of the things that I just think is so brilliant, she shares so many brilliant things that I didn't think of it, so I really think it's brilliant, which is when her husband is listening to her, sometimes he completely detaches, like so many men, because he's thinking about it. He's not feeling what you said, but he'll suddenly just pull away, and emotionally she'll feel he disappeared. And rather feeling threatened or disconnected, all you have to do is simply say, so you're thinking about what I said. And every man will say, yes, I'm thinking about it. And you'll get a positive response. His tone of voice will give you all the connection you need. Because what women are constantly, whether they're aware of it or not, they're looking for reassurance all the time. Just like those studies on men thinking about sex all the time. It's, these are biological realities, whereas women know they need to feel loved. Men know they need to have sex. And a woman who wants to have sex with him in a primitive form meant that she has a high level of love or trust with him. So we're getting that message. We're looking for that. And, many men will say in this whole sacred sexuality world, we get these, what are they? The free love. Okay, I'm so free. I can have sex with anybody. And I can go here. And we have open relationships and freedom here. Talking about jealousies coming up and negative energy coming into your relationship. Now you're taking your precious energy that you share with your partner and giving it to some stranger. It's like giving all your money away. And it's like, wait a second, that's mine. It's like people don't realize energetically you're growing in this sexual potency, sexual love potency over time that makes problems little things. When your sexual potency goes down, your love potency goes down, it's like everything's a problem. Everything's irritating you. And all it takes is him or her to go off with her vibrator, him to go off with his pornography. And you just drain the sex energy. The potency is not there, which makes you more addicted to having sex. So it's like we want to free ourselves from that dopamine hit and make it more of an emotional process of using sexual feeling. Sexual pleasure allows us to feel more. And as we feel more, feel what's inside of us and express that. And for women, it's expressing the pleasure or expressing their vulnerability, their need for reassurance. For men, it's expressing through his behaviors and reassuring words that will touch her heart very deeply, as his body is touching her very deeply, and so forth. So you do body, mind, spirit all comes together, but only with love. That's what sacred sexuality is using sex in order to make more love between a man and a woman. And I was making the point about these guys who say, okay, we're designed to have many women. No, you're designed to make babies. And if one woman won't have baby with you, then you're designed to find another one until you can make a baby. Because when you can make a baby with a woman, which means she loves you, you find a woman that theoretically, women didn't want to have sex with you unless they felt enough love for you that she could trust you to be there for her. See, that was the whole idea of waiting for marriage. The logic behind it is you don't have sex until you're married, because when you have a baby, he's got to stay. So basically, when women feel enough love for a man, knowing he'll stay, then you have sex where you can have a baby. And if you actually have sex with a baby, this is now biology. If I have sex with my wife, after sex, I've made different hormones than if I had sex with porn or sex with a prostitute or sex with a one-night stand or another woman or an affair. My body literally knows who you're having sex with. Are you having sex with somebody who loves you, who depends on you? If I have sex with someone who loves me and depends on me, my body makes prolactin. Prolactin inhibits my desire to have sex with other women because it means I found the woman to love me. So we're all looking for love as well. We have to be successful to get the love. But when you get that prolactin drop, it inhibits your desire for sex. It will also keep you from having sex with your partner very quickly, which happens for couples, heterosexual, all couples lose their desire for sex when they love their partner. It's kind of paradoxical, but love produces prolactin. Prolactin lowers dopamine, and dopamine, if you're depending on dopamine or intensity in order to produce testosterone and estrogen, then without the high dopamine, you're not going to have your sex drive. That's why you need polarity. So you need to be with somebody you love, that's sacred, and that will produce polarity. I'll be with you in just a minute. So I got an appointment I got to go to, but that's the magic thing. How do you keep the passion alive is create polarity. And when you're with someone who you love, then as a man, you're free from lust. You see, there's this thing that rules a man's life, his whole life. He's looking for a woman to have sex with, suddenly you're free from that desire. You've got it. I can give another example. When I was younger, I was always looking for the house I wanted to live in. Then I got the best house in the neighborhood. I can look at any house and go, I've got better. I mean, we as human beings are constantly comparing. I have a better house than anybody in the world. Somebody else might think their house is better, but all the things I want in a house are here. So because of that, I never lust after another house. I don't lust after another car. There's nothing I look after because I've got it. And that's freedom, the freedom to not have to try to get more. I've got it, and I'm passionate about it. That's what monogamy can give you if it's sacred sexuality, where you find what you're really looking for, and you hunger for it. Now, once you satisfy it, I'm not thinking about sex. I never think about sex because I get in bed, I get naked with my partner, boom, it happens. It's there, having what you want, as opposed to, oh, I can't have it now, can't have it now. And this is what goes on with people when they don't understand what we've been talking about, which is how to create sacred sexuality.
Thank you. Where can get people more from you? On your website? Do you do events online at the moment? Do you do any courses? What can people do to learn more?
Well, to learn more, you go to marsvenus.com, marsvenus.com. If you forget that, John Gray, Mars, Venus, any of those words, I'll come up. It's marsvenus.com. And there's a free course right there to introduce you to the practical basics. We talked a lot of philosophy today, but the basics of techniques to use in your relationship, I explored some. Then after that, we've got these free video blogs that I do with my daughter, Lauren. And then we've got courses. I've got a course on sex that I teach, and a course called Understanding Men for Women Only. And if you're a couple, I suggest the man watch it with his wife. It's an amazing, fun course. My daughter wrote it. I helped edit it, and we had big discussions to make it. It's the best thing we offer as far as I'm concerned. So that's called Understanding Men at marsvenus.com.
John, I'm so grateful. Like always, it was fantastic. We'll see you again soon, and wish you a wonderful day. And yeah, all the best. Thank you so much.
All the best to you. Thanks, everybody, for listening. You have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Gotta check your energy before you give me head.